You know, it's hard to believe that it's been exactly 30 years since Capcom introduced the world to Mike Haggar and his struggles to clean up Metro City. Final Fight was more than just another fun beat-em-up, it was an iconic game filled with memorable characters that are still finding work in the Street Fighter universe. We've already gone in depth on the original Final Fight, so I thought it might be fun to look back at the 1993 Super NES sequel. So turn back now if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to spoil the story and ending for Final Fight 2. This is Game Over, the early years. When we last checked in with the mayor of Metro City, he was guaranteeing his re-election by mopping up the streets and dismantling the Mad Gear gang. The original Final Fight ends with Haggar punching the crime kingpin Belger out a window and rescuing his kidnapped daughter, who immediately reconnects with her boyfriend Cody. It was one of those happily ever after endings for everybody involved. That is, unless you're the guy who was punched out a window, of course. Now, Final Fight 2 picks up several years after Belger was defeated. Haggar has won his re-election, Cody and Jessica are still together and currently on vacation, Guy has resumed his training, and Mad Gear has been completely decimated. Or have they? Unbeknownst to anybody, the remaining members of the gang regrouped and decided to capture Guy's fiancée Rina, as well as her father Gen Ryusai. It's Rina's sister, Maki, who sounds the alarm by getting a hold of Mayor Haggar, who agrees to help. Carlos Miyamoto also wants to help, but seeing as he has literally nothing to do with this story, we're just gonna pretend he doesn't even exist. So Mike and Maki agree to meet up in Hong Kong, which is the last known location of Rina and her father. Normally what you would do is investigate the area, talk to any of the witnesses that might have been there, and then proceed with extreme caution. But that's not Haggar's way, so he immediately starts punching people and hoping for the best. As much as I hate the precedent it sends, this strategy actually works, and Mike finds a Mad Gear general that goes by the name 1-1 protecting the docks. He's not gonna go down without a fight, but he ultimately reveals that Mad Gear HQ has moved to Europe, and that's where Rina and Gen Ryusai are headed. Now, if you're anything like me, then you're probably thinking that Europe is a pretty big place. I mean, there are 44 countries and more than 700 people live in there, so where do you even start? But when Haggar hears Europe, he assumes that Mad Gear is going to France. Yeah, this has to be the single dumbest way to investigate an international crime syndicate. But here we are, yet again, in that awkward situation where Haggar is right. His guess works, and once again he finds himself surrounded by gang members looking for a fight. The good news is that he barely has to leave the airport in order to find a Mad Gear leader named Freddy. The bad news is that Guile's been watching the fight this whole time and doesn't help in any way. Man, you suck, Billy. At this point, Haggar plans to stomp out every gang member in every country until he eventually finds Rina. His path takes him to fields filled with windmills and bombed out cities. He also finds Bratkin in the sewer, which brings up a whole bunch of questions that I probably don't want the answer for. Either way, there's no sign of the captured duo, so it's time to walk to England and kick ass at a train station. This leads to a genuinely exciting action scene at the top of a train, followed by this ridiculously cheesy fight against a clown named Philip. Look, I'm not saying the original had video gaming's best bosses, but this is just embarrassing. Anyway, we jump off the train once it gets to Italy. Hang on, I think I need to pull up a map here to better understand this path that Haggar is on. Alright, so we fly from China to France. Alright, that makes sense. Then we find a way to Holland, I don't know how. Walk to the UK, and then take a train from London all the way back to Italy. Let's see. I think that's how I would have done it. I'm sure it all tracks. Alright, so where were we? Oh, that's right, we were kicking ass on a boat while onlookers cheered from the side. This leads to an elevator stage because it's not a true beat 'em up without at least one elevator stage. That lifts us up to the rooftop where we get into a fight with fan favorite Rolento, who has dropped the O for some reason. Even with a slightly shorter name, he's still annoying. But at least this time he gives you some good advice. He tells you to go back to Japan and find his master. That's where Rina and Genryusai are being kept. You know, now that I think about it, if Haggar had just started in Italy, he wouldn't have had to go on any of those detours to France or the UK or Holland. Oh well, at least we have the address to the master and we know how to get there. This leads to an expected fight with all the Mad Gear guards and a few new faces. We follow the bamboo path that feels like it's designed just to show off the palatial estate. This takes us inside where the fight continues. It takes a few tries, but Haggar eventually finds the room with Rina and her father. But look out, because Master Ritu is there to trap our heroes and make them pay for what they did to Belger. It takes some doing, but we eventually kick the pink-haired kung fu master through the wall and down the mountain to his death. And this is what happens next. Alright, so let me get this straight. Haggar, Mackie, and Carlos traveled around the world but chose not to pick up Guy? You would think that Guy would want to know that his fiancée and his former master have been captured. I mean, the dude tagged along when his best friend's girl was taken, yet he has to find out about this adventure through a letter? There's something about that that doesn't feel especially satisfying. Like they were just leaving him out of the equation for no reason. A better story would have been him showing up in the final act when the rest of the team needed him the most. Look, the truth is that this is a pretty flimsy story. I understand why Mackie is trying to save her sister, but Haggar's involvement seems a little iffy. He's talked into globetrotting around the world and probably breaking all kinds of international laws in like a phone call. And don't even get me started on Carlos, who's just along for the ride. What Mackie should have done is just ruin Cody's vacation and drag him along to Hong Kong, France, and Italy. I mean, after everything Guy did for him in the first game, you would think it would be the least Cody could do. I think Jessica would understand. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over, the early years. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes every Monday. Now here's the question I have for you. Is Final Fight worth rebooting? With Streets of Rage 4 on the way, I've been thinking a lot about this question. Capcom tried to reboot the franchise a couple of times and only seemed to make it worse, whereas Streets of Rage never went through that awkward 3D period. You want to see another Final Fight game? Let me see your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back tomorrow with a look at Electronic Gaming Monthly's best reviewed games of 2001. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,